Hey, my name is Diana, and I'm a tabletop gaming nerd. Cool. So what I most wanted to talk about in this video is specifically Session Zero. I've heard that some people don't do Session Zero, and I don't trust those people. I don't know, whatever, they're fine. Anyway, I recommend doing a Session Zero for multiple reasons. But if you're a new GM starting out, here's what I want to share with you in my experience of doing a Session Zero and what it might look like when actually played out practically. The first thing that a Session Zero should be for is to set the stage for open lines of communication and safety tools. I've heard a barrage of negative feedback from certain types of people about using safety tools in tabletop gaming. A lot of it, I know, is not in good faith. But for the 1% of it out there that may be a legitimate criticism, I think is usually probably based on the fact that people hear about us using safety tools and imagine the scenario is like a bunch of people coming to a table with a group of lawyers to sign a paperwork about words that can't be spoken, and then everybody who disagrees goes immediately to jail. When actually, it's not like that at all. You know what? I'll show you in this really dumb TikTok I made what my Session Zero safety tool discussion actually looks like. Hey folks, so before we get started, I just wanted to let everybody know that in the Discord, I put some files up there you can look at. It's just like a little checklist in case there's something that you really need me to not bring up during these games. And then you could just send it to me. If not, don't worry about it, but it's there for you if you need. And of course, during the game, if something comes up, I always have my phone back here. I can always check it, so, it's no big deal. I'll try not to bring anything up that would require you to do that, but just in case. Cool? Anyway, anybody allergic to pizza? Because I am hungry. That's it. That's all it takes. It's just a signal to the people in the room that everything is safe and cool and okay, and that it's all right to talk to you if things are not safe or cool or okay. It doesn't have to be a huge deal. It doesn't have to be something that comes up frequently unless needed. And it just kind of, makes people aware that you're an open and available person to talk to as the GM. That's pretty objectively a good thing. Now, some people insist, well, I know my players. I've been playing with them for a decade or 2 decades, 3 decades. My players and I are all liches and we're here to destroy you. Okay, cool. That's great. You know what? If you feel like you really know them, I guess that's fine. But let me just give you a tip. I played with a group for years and frequently felt uncomfortable by things that were coming up or being pushed upon my character or other people's characters at the table. And I never spoke up about it, and I just laughed things off awkwardly because I was not sure whether or not it was safe to do so. These were people I knew for a long time. Spoiler alert, it was not safe to bring it up. So I think that it's just generally a good idea, even if you're playing a new game with the same group of players you've been playing with, to just throw a reminder out there. Hey, by the way, guys, remember, it's always okay to tell me if something's not right. That's it. Now you get to the meat of the Session Zero. The first thing is setting the stage. You're going to let them know what setting or module you're doing. If not, you're going to let them know a little bit about your homebrew. What's the world like? Maybe you have a map you want to show them, some key points about major cities or locations. Where their character might be from. Is there a place that's more of a farming district? A place that's more woodland? Is there some place where the Ashari hang out more frequently? Whatever you have tailored into your world, That is what you're going to set the stage for in your session 0. Then your players are going to take the character concepts that they've probably already been mulling over, and they're going to work them so that they fit into the setting that you've set up. Now, your players at this time should be asking you questions, and you should be answering them to the best of your ability, because this is a collaborative storytelling. From there, what I think is helpful is to ask your players what their expectations for gameplay are. Because players may not know to bring this up at all. They may have been, especially if they are new players, they may have watched a game on TV, on a stream, on a YouTube or Twitch channel. They may be listening to an actual play podcast and just assume that all games turn out this or that way. So what you want to do is ask them, are you looking for a dungeon crawl? Are you looking for combat heavy? Would you like to be playing a dating sim? Are you trying to play a story heavy game? Horror? Whatever. And then hear what they have to say. If multiple people have different answers, then, maybe mix it. Combine things. At that point, it's really okay to change what you previously may have thought you were coming up with. After all, whatever you thought was going to happen isn't happening anyway. So, it's good to learn to be flexible right from the start. This sharing of ideas is going to lead into the next part, which is figuring out why your players are seeking an adventuring party. Your players are going to come up with a whole laundry list of character traits, background, stats, things like that. And they're all great, delicious. Chef kiss. However, I think one thing is much more important, and that is, why does the character want or need a traveling group or an adventuring party? Because this game is collaborative. It's okay for characters to have a resistance to getting to know people, some barriers to opening up, some secrets they may want to keep from the rest of the party. But if they do not want or need other people at all, how will they participate in a game about a group of adventurers traveling together? It will just be entirely adversarial. There will be a lot of pulling teeth. There will be a lot of infighting. And generally speaking, it just won't, be as fun. The most common I get is if you want to play a character whose motivations are maybe on the evil side of the spectrum, maybe they're not a good character. And that's okay. Sometimes it's super interesting to have a evil or neutral character at the table. But they need to still want to be with the party and work towards the party's goals for some reason. And so it could be something as simple as it's safer to be in numbers. They may want to ultimately take the throne. They may, like Arkan, want to steal a legendary item. Doing so is going to be much easier if they have a group that wants to protect them, that even cares for their well-being or has a stake in it. So give them that as a thought processing tool to start building why their players are going to want to get their characters together. For now, we've got safety tools established, an open line of communication. We've got the world and setting and perhaps the mood or overall general trajectory of the campaign established. Characters are being brought to the table, and the potential for relationships are being formed. Technically, that's all a session 0 really needs to be. Plus, statting things, rolling things, whatever, that stuff is a given. But I like to add a little bit more because I think that it can be a little dry and doesn't really get people as excited to play. And that's kind of my favorite part. So I like to add a little tiny inconsequential bit of gameplay after that's done in the session 0. Nothing that's plot heavy, nothing that's even really a quest, and certainly nothing that has combat. Just a little scenario so that the players get to talk to each other. One that I use pretty frequently is that if they're all meeting in a tavern, for instance, you know, the old trope, maybe they don't know each other, they're all just there, and they witness something. Somebody get pickpocketed, somebody gets into a fight, someone got arrested, someone got turned down. What are their reactions? What's each player or group of players gonna react to that scenario that their character witnessed? The other one that I use is that you're heading down a road and along your way you meet at an intersection and there is another group of adventurers there. What do? It's simple, it's not plot heavy, but it allows them to flex a little bit in character, talk in character to each other, and ultimately test out if what the character that they came up with in their heads is actually the person they want to be playing. I do this specifically because more than one time I've had a player create a character during session 0, show up to play them on session 1, decide that they hated it, and they roll up a new character. And since I tend to do most of my plotting and scheming between session 0 and session 1, that sucked a little bit. So I try to avoid it by giving them a little bit more room with their characters before we actually dive into the campaign. The last thing that I was asked to talk about is how to find these groups and where and how to actually make this happen. If you're not a person who already has a group of friends that play or that want to play, how do you get started? So there's a couple of avenues for this. The old-fashioned way still works. You can go to a local gaming store or a public library and check the cork boards. You'll often see seeking GM, needs DPS, group needs healer, etc. And you can link up with people that way. Just make sure that you're safe. Don't go to anyone's house if you don't know them in real life. Libraries often have spaces that you can play in. Gaming stores as well, although sometimes they charge a fee. That's why libraries are super cool. And then there's the online route, which I often do, even though I slightly prefer in-person games. I largely prefer in-person games because I'm obsessed with miniatures, but I still like the online format, and it does open up the world of tabletop role-playing games to more people, which is always nice. So Roll20 is a website, if you're not familiar, that has both the message boards where you can link up with people and the actual system in which to play. There's video and voice chat, there's an interactive map builder, markers, dice rollers, and all of the canon Dungeons and Dragons stuff is already linked to it. However, for the GM, Roll20 takes a lot of work. There's a lot of setup, and especially with regard to battles, it does take away some of your ability to improv things on the fly, which is a big part of it for me. So I prefer to stay away from things like Roll20 and do theater of the mind. What theater of the mind is literally what it sounds like. It is just describing things for the players as they happen and estimating things like distances and areas of effect. It may not be as technically correct, but, you know, as long as nobody is intentionally messing things up, it is still the same game and it doesn't actually affect the amount of fun that we can have with it. There's also the other option of just having a camera set up at your house pointed at a physical map, which is something that I often do as well. That way you can play on anything that has a voice chat system whatsoever, like Discord or Skype or whatever. Then, of course, there is the online gaming, the streaming community, which is another option. I wouldn't recommend it really for a brand new GM because, again, GMing can be a little bit stressful. There's improv involved and a lot of work, and sometimes people online are not nice about people forgetting things like rules or messing up continuity. And I wouldn't want anybody who feels new to feel slighted or put off by seeing negative comments from jerks who should have their internet taken away. Anyway, it's still an option. It's out there. That is a whole other topic that I am not an expert on, even though I do stream my games. There are much better people with better resources out there. I would recommend looking into Welcome Party RPG, who have a lot written and worked up on the subject, and I'll link to them below as well. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. You've found your party. You've established open lines of communication. You've shown them the world. You have discussed why their characters will want to cooperate. And you've decided what kind of game you want to play. That's all Session 0 really needs to have. Anyway, I will be doing more videos coming up on event organizing, running games at conventions, creating character voices if you're not a voice actor, because most people aren't voice actors, for Christ's sake. So please, look out, subscribe, comment things. If there's something that I missed that you really want to hear about from somebody who's been playing, doing this for a long time in event spaces and things like that, please let me know. Thank you for watching this.